Good morning, everyone. It's Lynn Dunn from Stamptastic Designs. Thanks so much for joining me today. So today we are going to play around with a new suite of products, which is called Floral Charm, I think it's called. But it has a stamp set. There's a bundle of products, a stamp set, some dies, there's embellishments, and this beautiful paper. So on Wednesday, I shared just some fun little kind of triangular designs. And today we're going to play around with some of the scraps that I had left over from creating the cards on Wednesday. So if you missed Wednesday's video, I did link to it in the description with this video, so you can go check that out. But I was playing around with just some of the scrap papers that I had, and I came up with three different layouts. And these particular card layouts are actually quite versatile. So if you take a look at this first card here that I have in landscape style, it's the exact same layout, except for I did it in portrait style. So if you look, it's the same layout. I just kind of switched the pieces around and did it in portrait style. So I'm going to show you all three of these designs. So actually, you can end up with 6 different designs just using these 3 layouts. So I'll show you how that works. So I'm going to move some of these cards right now. We'll get these out of the way, and I'll show you the bundle. So this is the bundle that I'm using. It's called Charming Day Bundle, and it has a really pretty stamp set and some fun greetings. And then on the inside is where I always store my dies. So just an FYI, it doesn't come this way. I add this uh, what do you call it, magnetic sheet on the inside of my stamp case so that I can keep my dies along with my stamps. I know everybody asks me about that. I get these off Amazon. They're 5x7, so they fit perfectly inside the stamp case, and you can keep your stamps and dies together, because I always have a hard time trying to find them if they're not exactly with the stamp set. So we're going to play around with this particular pattern today, but in that designer series paper pack, there's quite a few different patterns. They're very pretty florals. Of course, this is one of the other patterns, and there's 4 other patterns in there that you can play around with, but we'll play around with this today. And in my video on Wednesday, I showed you how I colored these little flowers. So I just stamped them and used a little sponge dauber just to add a little bit of color. I didn't color the entire flower in. I just added a little bit of color to the floral designs on these cards. All right, so let me set these aside, and let's get into making one of these cards. I'm going to just make my screen a little bit bigger here. There we go. So for this first layout, I have everything, of course, cut out so that I can kind of show you these layouts. So the cards that I did create, I created them in this landscape style first. So now we're going to take that same design and I'm going to create them in portrait style, and then I'll show you the cards kind of side by side. So for this particular design, we have a couple pieces of pattern paper. So this one is 2.5 by 4. And then this one is 1 by 4. Excuse me. So these 2 pieces will go like this on the card. And then I have a piece for the greeting, which is 3.5 inches long, and it's 3/4 inches wide. So this is going to be the basic design. So it's 1 by 4, 2.5 by 4, and then this is 3/4 inches wide and 3.5 inches long. So let's go ahead and just stamp our little greeting on there. I'm using early espresso ink for all of the stamping for my greetings. So this one will just add a little happy birthday down on the bottom here. All right, and so let's go ahead and adhere these pieces together. These are very simple layouts. If you don't have this particular pattern paper, you obviously can use this with any pattern paper. You don't have to have this particular paper. But if you do, it makes really beautiful cards. So we're just going to add this piece first, this little 1-inch piece. I think I might have it a little crooked. And then we'll add this other piece, maybe, if I can get my glue to work. There we go. And we'll add this on here. And then we'll add our greeting. All right, so they all just kind of fit together. And then I created these little floral pieces in advance. So again, I just used a sponge dauber and just kind of added a little bit of mossy meadow, and this is petal pink, just to kind of pull out the colors that are in this particular pattern paper. So let's add a couple dimensionals on this, and then we'll add this to the card. So this I'm just going to put off to the side here. And then in this particular suite, there's some embellishments, of course, that coordinate with this particular paper. So let's add just a couple little embellishments down here. And let's see what the name of these are. These are Charming Shimmer Faceted Dots. So you have the petal pink, and then you have the berry burst, and then whatever color that is, I'm not sure. All right, so that is the basic card design. Very simple, and you can add whatever kind of little embellishments that you want on it. And then on the inside, I used up even more scrap pieces of paper. So I have a 3.5-inch long piece of paper. So it's just 3.5 inches, little scrap pieces that I just added to a piece of white cardstock. And this will just put right on the inside. So it's 3.5 inches long. It's about 3/4 inches wide. So it decorates up the inside pretty nicely there. So that is the first layout, but I do want to show you what it looks like in landscape style. So it's, let's see, is this the same one? I'm trying to find it. So for this one, what I did is I just switched out these pieces. So instead of having my greeting on this piece, so here's what it looks like. I just kind of switched out the pieces. So the 1-inch piece is actually this piece over here with my greeting on it. And then I just took that 3/4 inch piece, which is the bottom piece here, and just used the designer paper. So I used the exact same measurements. I just switched out the pieces of paper. I hope that makes sense. This is still your 2.5 by 4. This is still your 1 by 4. And this is still the 3/4 by 3.5. So it just gives you a little different look, but it's the exact same measurements. So it's kind of fun. All right, so that is the first design. Let's grab the second one here. And I am using basic beige for the card bases for all of them. So in case you're wondering what those are. For this one, I'll just kind of go through what the pieces are. So I have a 2.5 by 1 3/4 inch piece of white cardstock. And then I just have a 2.5 by 2.5 inch piece of pattern paper. And then this other piece is 4.25 by 1. So this is 1 inch and this is 4.25. So that's the kind of design that it makes. You can put this piece up at the top, or if you want, you could switch these around, put it at the bottom, either way. We're going to do it at the top though. And before I do that, I'm going to add my greeting. So let's add a different greeting this time. And so that's what the design will look like. So let's start. I always like to start left, go kind of left to right. So I'll add this off to the side here and bring this down a little bit. All right, so there is the first piece, and then it's just a matter of adhering all these pieces. They're all going to get adhered directly next to each other. And this one will go on the bottom. And so that's your basic design for the portrait style. And then, of course, I have another little flower that I stamped and just added color to. So we'll just add this. And yeah, these are very easy designs, and they're just really cute too. All right, so we'll add that little flower right there. And let's add some, oh, let's see, where do I want to put these? We could just probably add some around here. Oh, let's do the bigger ones. I think I did this last time. We'll tuck this one right in there. And then we'll add this one right there. All right. And then I have the same paper for the inside. So let's just add this on the inside. I had a lot of little scrap pieces that were 3.5 inches long. So I just decided to put these on the inside. All right, so that is the second layout. And I'll show you what it looks like in landscape style. So this is how I did it in landscape style. And you can rearrange these however you want. You know, all these pieces will fit together perfectly. So you can put them in any order that you want. But you can see this time, instead of having this up on the top, I put it down on the side and then stamp my greeting, you know, like that. So I just kind of switched those pieces. So this is what it actually looks like. So I just switched these, the white piece and the designer paper piece around so that I could add my greeting on there. So it's pretty simple, but it gives you a completely different look when you do it in landscape and portrait styles. So if you want to get the most out of your, um, you know, designs, your card layouts, then just do them in portrait style and then do one in landscape style. Like I said, it's the same measurements, but it just gives you a different look. So, all right, so that is the second card layout. And then the third one, let's grab these. This third one has two different pieces. I use kind of longer pieces. Um, so I suppose this isn't really necessarily scraps, but it was in my scrap pile. But let's see, this piece I believe is 2.5. Yeah. So this is 2.5 by 5.5. It goes the full length of the card here. And then this one is 1 by 5.5. So they're just going to fit together on your card front this way. So let's go ahead and do that. We'll add these. And I like to keep my pieces together on the card front so that I can make sure that I have, you know, a fairly equal space on each side so I don't adhere it too far over one way or the other. And then we'll add this larger piece. We'll add that one on there. Isn't this pretty paper? I just love this paper. It's very pretty. And then I use the stylus shape size just to create this little square shape. So let's see how big this is. This is almost 2 inches. It's about 1 7/8 by 1 7/8. We're going to use it in the diamond shape. And I'm going to add my greeting on here. So we'll use the same greeting, this thanks for being you. And then this time I'm going to add my little flower right off the side. So I like to glue it on there so I know where it's going to go. And then we'll add some dimensionals on the back. And then we can pop this up on the card. Excuse me. All right, so then this will just add probably right about here, maybe. Yeah, let's go right there. And that's that basic design. And then we'll just add a couple of these little embellishments right here. We'll use the bigger ones. And then the same thing on the inside. I have the exact same pieces for the inside. So this white piece is just 4 by 5 1/4. And then this little piece of scrap is 3.5 by 3, wait, 3.5 by 3/4. So that's it. All right, so that is the third card idea. Let me just move my ink out of the way here. And then I'll show you what it looks like in the landscape style. So it's the exact same design. It's the same layout. I just turned it and decorated this card in the landscape style. So it just gives you a really fun look. Like I said, just a different look, a different way to use your scraps or your pattern paper with one particular layout. Do one in portrait style and one in landscape style. All right, so that is the third card idea. So now I'll show you what these look like. Let's see, I'm just gonna grab these. So these are the ones that I did, that I just walked you through. And then I'll show you how it looks just with different pattern paper. Well, actually, maybe I'll just do one at a time so you can see it. So here is the portrait style. We'll just do the portrait style because actually I have been using this paper, this particular pattern so much that I don't have anymore. I used it all up, both of these patterns. So I guess I'll have to get another pack. But both of these patterns are identical, obviously. You can see that the layout is identical. The only difference is that I changed out the colors that I was using. So there's lots of paper in this particular pack of paper that you can do that with. Or even if you have, you know, whatever pattern paper you have on hand, you can use that and just create a different little embellishment here instead of this floral design. Just use what you have. So here is the other one, just done in different colors. So this is the berry burst, and this has more of the petal pink and the pretty peacock in it. So same layout, just different colors. And where's the other one? Here is the other one. So it's a great way to just make a bunch of cards and use up your pattern paper. So I really like these particular designs. They were kind of just a lot of fun to play with. So here are the designs again. We'll put these out there. And then I'm going to show you just a couple other designs. So I on Wednesday, I showed you guys how to use that cut and shuffle technique, excuse me, to create, let me turn this back on here. Where am I? There I am. So I showed you how to use this stack, cut, and shuffle technique to create this diagonal design. So if you didn't see that video, like I said in the beginning, I linked to it in the description with this video. So you can go out to my blog and you can check out the different designs that I have. This is why I don't have any more of this paper, because I used it Wednesday and I used it today. So But it's very easy to create this diagonal design, and you can create 4 cards from just 2 pieces of pattern paper, which measure 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. So it's really kind of a fun way to use the stack, cut, and shuffle technique. So I did, of course, a bunch of cards in this portrait style. And then you know me, I have to do it in landscape style too. So it's the same, type of design. I just decorated the card in landscape style instead of decorating in portrait style. So go check those out. That was really fun. And then I also just kind of played around with just some other designs. I just decided to use some triangular designs. And I'll share more about these particular cards in an upcoming video. I'm actually going to do something a little bit different, but these are basically, you can cut little square shapes. So I think this one was 3 3/4 by 3 3/4 inch designer paper. And then I just cut it in half and mounted it to 4 by 4 inch piece of black cardstock, which I cut in half. So that's how I created this design. It's a very simple design, but I just wanted to show you some of the things I've been doing with this particular pattern paper. So there's another one. All right, so that's what I wanted to share with you guys today. Just wanted to give you some ideas for using up scrap paper, or give you ideas for using this new paper that just came out. Um, and if you, like I said, if you haven't seen the new online exclusives, this is one of them. It's called Floral Charm, and there's a variety of different products that go with this particular suite. There is another suite of products out there with some pairs. I forget what it's called, perfectly paired or something like that. And that also has some really pretty papers and things for you to check out. So go check it out. But in the meantime, feel free to use these ideas with any pattern papers or supplies that you have. I'll get all the measurements up for you on the blog. I'll put some templates out there so that you'll be able to use those templates, print those out, and use those in your card making. So I hope you guys enjoyed these card ideas, and that you're inspired to use up any scrap papers that you have on hand, and that you're also just inspired to go check out this particular beautiful suite of products. So I hope you have a wonderful rest of your 4th of July weekend, and a great week. And I will see you guys again next week. So take care, everybody.